And this afternoon, I'm with Nyah-Rae Glasgow. We're just doing a little bit of a chat about your learning experience. Hi, Nyah. How are you doing? You all right?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Just tell me a little bit to start off with about your background, a little bit about yourself, any interesting facts or hobbies we need to be aware of.
So I'm now obviously I'm 21. A bit of background information about me. I originally was like into like sports science. That's the route I kind of thought I was gonna go down, like in secondary school and college. Like most of my studies were like food nutrition. In A levels I done like biology, PE. So I thought I was gonna go down that route. But I'm around a lot of people in my family that are kind of in like support working roles. My mum was a probation officer. My dad currently has a business doing support working. So yeah, that's like basically what I'm around. My stepdad works in the youth justice system. So even though that's kind of like the sport route is what I wanted to go down, I was very much around like that in my home environment and things like that. I then started working for my dad doing support work around 16 or maybe 15. So I was with him like doing shadowing, and then obviously as more I got confident, he gave me kind of my own like families and things like that. And that's kind of how I went down like this route. After I finished, well, as I was finishing sixth form, I realized that studying wasn't exactly for me. Just studying alone wasn't for me. I'm very like hands-on. I want to kind of get that experience and put like the theory into practice kind of thing. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to go for an apprenticeship instead of going down the route of uni. And yeah, that's kind of how I've got here.
So when you thought about your apprenticeship then, were there any apprehensions? Were you kind of worried about what that looks like?
Yes, I was very worried because I think now like apprenticeships are being pushed a lot more. But like when I was in sixth form, it was very much they wanted you to go down the uni route. They did say obviously there is apprenticeships out there, but they made the journey a little bit harder because they kept on saying that apprenticeships are hard to get into and things like that, which I do see where they were coming from because I had a little bit of that struggle. But I felt like in college I wasn't really supported that much, and they were more kind of pushing me to go towards the uni route because that was the more like conventional route for everyone. And then obviously everyone around me, like all my friends, they go to uni, so I felt kind of alone and out of my depth a little bit because it was just kind of me making this kind of big decision not to go to uni and to find an apprenticeship. So yeah, I was kind of a little bit worried. I was thinking, what's this going to look like? Yeah.
Okay, so how did you come to be on your apprenticeship then? Was it to a provider or did you go through an employer? How did that work?
Yeah, so I went through an employer, sorry. So I was working and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna apply for apprenticeships and see what kind of comes up whilst I'm working. And then yeah, that's what I done. So I went onto the Lewisham Council website because I live within Lewisham Borough, and I saw that there was apprenticeships available. And then I found a trainee family support work, and I was like, oh, this is like right up my street. And yeah, that's how I came.
It's fantastic, isn't it, when you see that, and that's something you've got in your mind, and you say exactly what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Which kind of validates that you're looking for apprenticeships, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Say, well, that's me. That's tailor-made for me. So obviously, you got onto your apprenticeship course. Everyone has apprehensions when they first start.
Yeah.
How did you feel once you were on your course then?
So once I was on my course, I was thinking, I was still a little bit like nervous, worried, of course, because it still wasn't kind of clear at this point what it was going to look like, because I think what happened is we started the job but our studies didn't start straight away. So there was a little bit of a delay with our studies, so we were just kind of working. So I was thinking, okay, what's this going to look like once I'm now studying? And because we work within the early help service, we were slowly kind of building, we were like shadowing, and then we slowly started getting our own cases. So I was thinking, well, what's this going to look like once I have to start studying as well? So yeah, there was a bit of like nerves about how am I going to kind of time manage and things like that.
Yeah, and I think they are what most people have when they start a new period of learning. It's kind of thinking about, well, I've got my main job and I've got a job there. How's that going to fit in? That sort of thing. So once you got onto your apprenticeship then, and we did your induction, you had an induction to your program, and you were allocated your development coach.
Yeah.
Then how did that feel, and sort of working day to day doing that?
So once I met my development coach, I felt a lot better. She really kind of broke it down, explained what's to be expected, that, you know, we can literally come to her for anything. So yeah, I think it kind of relieved a lot of like nerves, and just having a breakdown of what the course is actually going to look like, what we're going to be studying, how that's going to kind of fit into, you know, our day-to-day life of work, was really, really helpful. So yeah.
And do you have any additional sort of learning needs when you're working through your qualification? Is there anything else that maybe we needed to support you with?
No. Yeah, I don't have any kind of additional learning needs, but I still kind of felt like they made it clear that regardless of whether you have additional learning needs or not, like, we're literally here to support you. So yeah, it was really nice.
Excellent. And your development coach supported you day to day with the work that you've got to do. How did you get on with planning and prioritizing your time then, thinking about what you were sort of worried about?
Yeah, so I think once we kind of got into a routine and kind of started our lectures and things like that, it made it obviously a lot easier to then figure out, okay, how am I going to fit this around work? So obviously work is 9 to 5. Thursday was our lecture day, so we literally could study. We studied all day. I think then I kind of just left the Thursdays just for literally no work. So I have my lectures, and if I have some time after to maybe go over what I've learned, things like that. I then made sure I took time on the Saturdays, like an hour, 2 hours, just to kind of, you know, prioritize a bit of work. I think as it got a bit more hectic and then we had to start kind of giving in essays and things like that, that's when I couldn't really stick to that kind of strict kind of, you know, routine. I had to be very flexible with it, and like sometimes after work I had to go and maybe finish an essay off and things like that. So you do have to be very like flexible and resilient.
Absolutely. I think you're right. I think with the volume of work there is, I think some people do feel that an apprenticeship is maybe an easy option, and it definitely isn't. There's knowledge, skills and behaviours to gather. So as you work through, obviously you're working towards your endpoint assessment. You've got past that now, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
So what did it feel like going towards that endpoint assessment then? How did your development coach support you towards that?
Yeah, so once we had finished our studies, we stopped having like the lectures on the Thursdays, and instead it was like a lecture about endpoint assessment, so just prepping us for our endpoint assessment, which was really, really good. So every Thursday they just kind of went through like kind of a set of like questions that they may ask, or that, you know, that they've known to ask in the past, and then we just used to go through them questions, and as a group people kind of answer them together. And it was good to do that in a group setting, because I feel like when someone else answered, you'll think, oh, like I didn't think of that, oh that's a good way to look at that question. So that was really helpful. So that kind of supportive group was really nice. I think, again, I was a bit nervous coming up to the endpoint assessment, because there was that kind of a gap between, you know, we've now finished our studies, but then you still haven't actually finished your apprenticeship yet. Absolutely. So you still kind of had that kind of looming over your head a little bit. But I feel like, as I said, the supportive groups on the Thursdays were really, really good and helpful. Yeah.
Excellent. So during your endpoint assessment then, obviously quite a nervous time, and you're showcasing yourself to that endpoint assessor. Initially, when you start presenting and you start answering the questions, it's quite nerve-wracking, but a lot of people say they settle into it a little bit as they start going through it. Did you find that? And what were the sort of key things for you during that process then?
Yeah, so, you know, like 5 minutes leading up to it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like at first I was thinking, oh, do you know what? I'm gonna do okay. I'm literally just talking about what I do day to day, and literally 5 minutes up to it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous now. But yeah, no, I completely agree with those other people. Like as we started, I really did settle into it. I think it was really helpful that my manager was there, because basically we done like an observation. So the examiner done an observation of a supervision, a case supervision. So kind of having my manager there, even though she was asking me the questions and doing like a supervision with me, it's just still like that support, having a familiar person was really helpful. And then yeah, once my manager started kind of asking me questions, I really did like settle into it, felt a little bit better. Also the examiner she was really, really nice. She had briefed me before obviously the exam, so that was really helpful, so I knew exactly kind of what to expect, at what times we're doing what. So yeah, it made it a lot better.
It sounds like you're really set up to succeed, and you've got that input from everybody required. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yes, 100%. Really everyone good. Was really kind of supportive, and like really assisted your development. And I think something that I learned along the way doing this apprenticeship is that it's okay to like ask for help. Like if you're stuck in something, like just ask. Like they're there to support you, regardless of whether it's in work or your studies. Like everyone's literally there to help you.
So you did your endpoint assessment. How long was it before you found out what the result of that was, and what was the result?
Yeah, so I believe it was maybe just under a week, and I got a distinction, which I
Wow.
was so shocked about.
That is a really high level of work, and to be working at that level is fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
It's really,
Thank
really
you.
good. So you've completed your apprenticeship. You're now sort of qualified in that area.
Yes.
What would you say were the things that the apprenticeship gave you? So at the end of it, looking back at your journey, what do you think of the...
I think time management was a key skill that like I really kind of developed. Like because I've always kind of worked from when I was around 16, I've always had to kind of have time management, but this really helped me to just develop that skill. Being able to kind of organize a lot better, prioritize. Resilience is a big one, because there was times when I was thinking like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fit everything in? And obviously at the same time, because I am 21, all my friends, as I said, have gone off to uni. So then I'm seeing kind of their journey, and they were having they were going to uni parties and things like that. And I was kind of like here doing a 9 to 5 and then obviously studying. So yeah, I think resilience and just knowing just kind of just keeping your kind of end goal in mind, but also just setting like little kind of tasks and steps to obviously reach your end goal was really important for me. Yeah.
That's a really good technique, isn't it? To sort of divide things up into little manageable chunks as well.
Exactly.
So what are your plans for the future then? You're in your role, you've got your qualification, you're looking forward now. What are your plans, do you think?
So my plan, I had to do an interview for my current role to get a permanent role. The interview went really well, but then at the same time I also saw an opportunity to apply. So it's still within like Lucian Council, but to another service that's doing a similar kind of role, but it's within children's social care, because right now I'm sitting within early help. So I saw a role come up to be a family practitioner within children's social care, and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. So I applied for it, and I've got the job for both, and I've decided to go with the children's social care role just because I feel like that will really kind of stretch and develop my kind of skills. It was a very hard decision to make, because obviously I've been with my service for over a year now, and I've built really good relationships. They've literally kind of molded me into the practitioner that I am today. So it was a really hard decision, but I felt like I want to kind of go off and expand my skills and knowledge. So
brilliant. What a fantastic position to be in, to have two job roles to make that decision with. I would have loved to have had that and had two roles to go, wow, I'll go for that one. So just the last couple of questions then. So looking back at your apprenticeship and looking at apprenticeships in general, what would you say about them if somebody was thinking about doing an apprenticeship? What would your advice be?
Yeah, I would highly recommend. Obviously, as we've discussed, it's not easy, but I feel like it's really good just to be within a service that you're building them kind of networks and then connections, so you're not only just studying, getting your theory and then being able to apply it into practice, you're also kind of building up a network of people, and you find things along the way. So even for example with me, even though I didn't want to stay in my service at the end of the day, I still was able to kind of have connections with people to then go and apply for a different service. So yeah, I would really highly recommend apprenticeships.
Do you know, you're talking with such enthusiasm about your job and the apprenticeship itself. It's a pleasure to listen to, actually. Certainly from my point of view, it's been really good to get to know you today. It's been really good to learn about your learning journey. Fantastic result with your distinction. Really love that. It's really good. And would you recommend the childcare company to anyone who's looking to do an apprenticeship then?
Yeah, no, I definitely would. I think at the beginning, just because this was within our service, this was the first time they've ever had trainees and done an apprenticeship. So I think at first there was kind of just the little difficulties in terms of communication with the childcare company and obviously work. But then after a while, once it all kind of settled down, it was amazing. They were really helpful. Same with work. I think just having the communication between work and the childcare company was really important. We also had monthly progress review meetings, so I kind of got to discuss work and studies all at the same time, and which was really helpful. So yeah, I would recommend.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time today. It's been great to catch up with you, and good luck for the future.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.